When people hear payload, they immediately think bombs and missiles. But in aerospace and defense, a payload is anything that an aircraft carries to create an effect, right? That effect could be sensing something, communicating something, disrupting something, or even destroying something.
And then from an engineering standpoint, that also includes sensors like radar, EO/IR, electronic warfare pods, fuel tanks, targeting pods, and yes, also includes weapons. But once you choose the payloads, a lot of the aircraft design decisions are already locked in.
Yeah, exactly. So power, cooling, software, weight, drag, certification, all that flows from the payload decisions, right? And the aircraft is the delivery platform, and the payload defines the mission. Let's talk about the weapons categories and how these missions are driven to design, right? So first we got air-to-air weapons. And air-to-air exists for one reason: dominance of the air.
And these really engage airborne threats. So you have aircrafts, cruise missiles, increasing drones capacity, just in this day and age. But examples really include the AIM-120, and that's really the AIM-120 AMRAAM. So that's Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missile. But you also have the AIM-9. So that's the Air Intercept Missile Sidewinder. But when you look at the AMRAAM, the acronym is really the Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missile, but really the guidance is around being an active radar. The range is really beyond visual line of sight. And then you have platforms like the F-15, F-16, F-22, F-35, and F-18 all carry this AMRAAM. But when you think about the AIM-9 Sidewinder, that guidance is infrared, so it's really heat seeking. And that range is really for short, close range dogfighting. So that's what, the really great impacts for those two examples.
And I've had the pleasure of working on both of those programs, by the way. So, and these are not standalone weapons, right? They depend on radar and data links and offboard sensors and the overall network. The other one is air-to-ground weapons. And air-to-ground weapons support troops, strikes, fixed or mobile targets, and executes maritime strike.
And really some of the examples include JDAM, Hellfire, JASSM, and laser-guided weapons. So when you break down JDAM, that's really developed jointly by the U.S. Air Force and Navy to improve the accuracy. And this kit really is included and added to 500-pound, 1,000-pound, or 2,000-pound bombs. And JDAM is really that acronym for Joint Direct Air Attack Munition. Hellfire was developed in the 1970s, so this is a weapon that's really a staple for helicopters, drones, and fixed-wing aircraft. JASSM, that acronym is Joint Air Surface Standoff Missile, and that's manufactured by Lockheed Martin, like we're in our newsreel. And this missile has a range of over 200 nautical miles. And for the standard version, but they also have an extended range version that exceeds that 500 to 600 nautical miles.
And then there's other laser guided weapons like the Paveway, Maverick. A lot of these systems, use precision to drive complexity, and these are what you'll hear. And when you hear terms of like bunker buster, these are particularly air to ground. They can actually glide to the certain target they need to hit, either fixed or mobile, and they have multiple uses in either maritime. They can be air to ground, they can be air to something else, but it's really about driving that complexity and that precision on hitting on target. This is where you really hit things. These are the systems where when stuff go down, right? That's how I like to call it. This is the systems that are the first ones when something gets blown up and things like that. And you can go and Google the many of missions that have been occurred in the last year of how these systems really do work, and they really require rules of engagement. Real about what type of collateral considerations that are out there, and the certifications on those really all drive the cost of those systems.
Yep, and I would say that, I mean, this is directly comparative for like the F-35s while they're still in existence to this day.
Absolutely. F-35 has everything on it. Then you have these things called standoff weapons, right? And the standoff answers are one question is like, how do I hit the target without putting the aircraft at risk? And this is basically driving to what we talked about air to ground. Rob, you want to jump in and add more to that?
Yeah, so I mean, when you think about longer range, more planning, heavier resilience on the networks, that also includes a higher cost, but fundamentally is differently for survivability. So you want to key in on that survivability. That's what these weapons really tackle.
Right, and a big one on that one is I like to call one called a joint standoff weapon, which actually is JSOW. It does exactly that. It just hits a target. We go see it. It can be laser, EOR guided. It can be guidance guided. It can be active or passive, and it just goes and hits its target at an extended range of what it has to do. Right, and then last but not least, we got guns and cannons. Right, and these are mounted on the system, right? And Rob's case, Rob, they still exist, right?
Yep, they're still there.
This is what we get with fans of Top Gun and those guys to see those real air fights where those cannons are used for there. But they're very reliable and they are simplistic, but for most guys, but they still matter in the fight, if you will.
Yep, exactly. I mean, even when you think about like those Black Ops video games, those are, have the flyovers that, those guns are on the vehicles to take out a strip of land or whatever it does on that platform. But that's, personally a lot of dogfighting, close to close combat.
So let's talk about how these weapons are mounted, right? Real quick. Weapons are carried on hard points, which are structural attachment points on the system. And Rob can tell you about where and how and what they get, what type they're on.
Yeah, so when you think about where and how, it's really around the wing stations, the center line pylons, internal bays, and depending on the weight, power, data, and aerodynamics, that's where those hard points are designed into the vehicle.
Yeah, and there's also a big, if they want to be stealth, if you want to do a whole lot of things with it as well. So some examples is the F-16. They carry everything externally. I stand beside a F-16, and you're like, I don't know. It's every weapon effector it's on there. It's on there, right? Every one we talked about earlier, it's on there, and you sits there externally. From an F-35 perspective, it's often everything is carried internally, right? As well as the B-2 bomber, B-52 or the B-21, they carry big internal payloads as well, right? And every choice that if I'm going to do it about these hard points or where they're going to be structurally is all about stealth, capacity, flexibility, specialization, and then, as always, at the very high level, the cost versus the mission effectiveness, what you want that actual aircraft, what's the mission purpose for that aircraft, and why it needs to have what it needs to have on it.